What's up? Welcome to the show, Evan, Marc Katz.
Thank you so much for having me, Jayson. I love talking about this subject. I'm glad to find a receptive audience, and hopefully we could provide something that is of great value to the people who listen to you.
Okay, cool. I'm psyched too. Tell us what you do.
I'm a dating coach for smart, strong, successful women. My area of expertise is helping them understand men and make healthier relationship choices that can last. And that could fall under a huge umbrella of, I never meet the right man. The right man never wants to commit to me. I don't go on any dates. I don't like anybody I go out with. There's materials for everybody, wherever you are in the dating and relationship life cycle.
Yeah. Awesome. And how did you get into this? Have you always been really good at relationships, or what happened?
Has anybody always been good at relationships? Have you always been a concert pianist? No, I mean, I was an epic failure at dating and relationships. I'm a decent writer, and so I came out to LA to be a screenwriter in my 20s, and agents and managers and contests and film school and Matt Damon and Ben Affleck's Project Greenlight, and I did all sorts of cool stuff. I just didn't make any money. And when I turned 30, I said, I don't want to be the 40-year-old guy who's trying to sell a screenplay anymore. I got to find something else I can do. So while I was in film school, I put myself through by answering phones at an online dating company. And after 9 months of doing that, I realized I knew more about online dating than pretty much anybody I was talking to. So I wrote a book in 2003 called I Can't Believe I'm Buying This Book, A Common Sense Guide to Internet Dating. And unlike my whole Hollywood career, I was for the first time in the right place at the right time. And the book did well, and I was on CNN and the Today Show and USA Today and Time Magazine. And I was like, all right, I'll drop out of film school and I'll be the dating guy. But I didn't have a psychology background. I was just a writer who was experienced at dating and had a point of view. And I built a website called eCyrno that writes people's online dating profiles. And no one had done that before. So it became a news story and stayed in the news cycle. And suddenly I was writing people's online dating profiles on demand. And people would say, oh my God, I'm getting all this attention. What do I do now? And I said, well, you go on Match and you flirt. I don't know how to flirt. Okay, I'll log in with you and I'll help you flirt. So really online dating profiles led to online dating coaching, led to dating coaching, led to relationship coaching. And at a certain point in 2010, I realized that 80% of my clients were women. I didn't ask for that. That was the audience that gravitated towards me. My observation is men need help. They just don't ask for it. So I kind of went with the audience who demanded the services the most. And, using some of my own advice, I broke my own negative patterns. It was easier to give advice than to take it. And I realized I was a hypocrite and got married in 2008. And since that time, everything's just been humming along.
Awesome. Wow, that's a great experience. What do you see are some of the most common dating issues that, maybe the top 2 or 3 that you hear about and that you deal with?
Oh, gosh. I think you have to make broad generalizations in order to do that. And it's always dangerous when you're talking to an audience to generalize, because someone will say, well, that's not me. That doesn't describe me at all. I think we can divide. If we use Amir Levine and Rachel Heller's book Attached as an example, it's a really, really good book. We could divide people into secure attachment style, able to have intimate relationships, and that describes 50% of the population. They might not have met the right person or have a propensity to choose incompatible relationships and try to force them to fit. And then the other 25% on each side is anxious and avoidant. Right? Anxious is really nervous, craving intimacy. They often choose avoidant men who give them crumbs, say they want love, but run really hot and cold. And so those people stick together like magnets, and they're doomed to fail from the start. And so basically it's helping someone in whatever phase they're in get to a place where they feel more secure, right? If I had to give sort of blanket advice, what would a confident woman do? That's what you should be doing. And that's what I teach women. What would a confident woman do when she receives this text? What would a confident woman do if she hasn't heard from her guy in 3 days? What would a confident woman do if she's really attracted to a guy but doesn't want to sleep with him because she doesn't want to see him on Tinder the next day? So all the advice is given from a place of confidence, and you apply it as you see fit to where you are in your life.
Yeah, that's great. I haven't been in the dating scene in so long. I imagine with all the new apps and everything, I hear about it and I feel overwhelmed. How do you advise people there? Because it seems like there's so many sites and so many choices now to like, where does someone even start?
I don't think it's a matter of where. I think it's one of the big myths of dating. What's the best site? Right, and to which I answer, what's the best gym?
Uh-huh.
Like, what are you going to lose more weight at 24-hour Fitness or LA Fitness or Crunch or Equinox? And ultimately, the gym is fungible. You could be successful wherever you go. You could sort of like the good looking crowd here, the equipment here, but at the end of the day, it's what you do at the gym that makes the difference.
Yep.
So people put all their weight on, I'm going to go with Match versus OkCupid versus Tinder versus, it doesn't matter, right? It's how it's how you use it that will ultimately determine your success. And that's where dating coaching, that's where there is an actual skill involved as opposed to just dumb luck, which is most people's strategy is, well, if I do this enough, right, maybe I'll get lucky. And I believe you create your luck by making smarter choices. And the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. If what you're doing isn't yielding results by your standards, you might be open to a different way of doing things. And so that, I'm not judgy about which site. They all work fine. It's really who are you going to be? How are you going to utilize it that will determine your success? And in general, my belief is the more we could turn online dating into feeling like real life dating, the more fun we're going to have, the more selective we'll be, the higher quality of our first dates will be. The problem is dating sites and apps make everything instant gratification. And so when both women and men give into instant gratification, you can't be too surprised that a lot of people flake out and a lot of people are creeps, and you show up on a lot of blind dates with strangers who don't live up to their billing. You've given no screening process whatsoever. You might as well write your number on a bathroom wall and say, hey, let's meet. So these media are designed for instant gratification. We have to have the wherewithal to resist the instant gratification and do a little bit of screening before we meet instead of just meeting total strangers and keeping our fingers crossed.
Yeah, I love it. Wow. Yeah, the dopamine hits, the instant gratification is really seductive. I mean, I want to feel good right now. I don't want to actually, play the longer game. So in a longer game view, what's a suggestion there instead of playing into that instant gratification? What are a couple things I can do to slow it down?
I did a TED Talk once upon a time called No More Bad Dates. And I talked about this concept, and it's not the 10 Commandments. It's right. This isn't written in stone. It's a paradigm. I call it the 222 rule. But it's not about being rigid. 222 refers to 2 emails on your dating site, 2 emails on Gmail, 2 phone calls, and then a date. But it could be 531. It's not really about keeping score. The idea is you're establishing a connection on your site beyond, hey, what's up? Not much. You want to meet? Sure. That's not the basis for a first date. It literally lowers the bar so low that anybody could get a first date.
Uh-huh.
There's no screening involved. So the idea is, think of it more like a party, right? You meet a woman at a party, you talk about, the music that's playing in the background or the onion dip or what she's drinking or that funny guy in the corner. You find an excuse to talk. You talk for 20 minutes. You say, I'm having a really good time talking to you. You want to step outside and grab a drink? And she says, sure, that sounds like fun. And you go outside and you grab a drink, and an hour passes, and end of the night, it's like, oh my God, I got to go. I had such a great time talking to you. Could I get your number? Sure, that would be great. Yeah, I'm going to give you a call later this week. That feels good. Yeah. Right? And that's before technology. That's how we did it. Right?
Totally.
You make it right. You make an intro. Feels a little more intimate after 20 minutes. Let's grab a drink. Just you and me talk. Could I get your number? So I'm trying to get people to slow down in online dating to do some version of that over the course of 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
Before meeting. Yeah. That's it. So 222 is what I call it, but it doesn't matter. Make a connection on the site, move to Gmail, continue to flirt during the workday, right? Set up a time for a phone call. Don't text. Texting is the death of communication, right? Set up a phone call. Like you and I had a time to talk today, right? Yeah. Set up a phone call. I'm around tonight at 7:30. Can't wait to hear from you then. right? That phone call is your first date. If you, in 20 minutes on the phone, you want to kill yourself, maybe you shouldn't meet him for drinks.
Yeah.
So it's raising the bar for a first date, not swipe right, one text, meet for coffee, which leads to this complaining that everybody has about dating right now. So it requires some wherewithal, especially when, you know, if you're a woman, men are in a rush to meet. I want to meet you as quickly as possible. I want to see if there's chemistry. I don't want to waste time. All right. So men are really, really aggressive. And women have to realize they have the value. If he pushes you, let's meet. I'm a total stranger. Let's meet. No, you have to charm him into showing you why he should invest in you and why he should flirt with you by email and why he should call you on the phone first. So there's a skill involved to, for lack of a better word, manipulating a man to put in more time to differentiate her from all the other women who he's swiping right and meeting. She raises her value in his eyes just by being cool, smart, funny, responsive, warm, right? It's not really, it's not a game. It's a screening process, no more than you could go to Microsoft and demand an interview with Bill Gates, right? Yep. There's a screening process. You got to go through HR. You might have to go through a few rounds of interviews. And women, due to scarcity or insecurity, are basically saying, no screening. He's cute. He gets a date. And that leads us to where we are with this merry-go-round of blind dates and flakes and dick pics. And, you know, I just think it could be done better.
Yeah, clearly. Well, I love it. It seems simple. So what you're saying is, if I value myself, let's say as a woman, I'm probably going to slow the process down. I'm not just going to swipe right and meet you.
I think you're an actual psychologist, where I'm an amateur student. This is more behavioral. What I do is closer to behavioral therapy, which is to say, do this, right, and watch as the world responds to you differently. Right. So you might not feel confident. You might be like, I can't do that. This cute guy said he wants to meet me at 9:00 tonight. Shouldn't I go? What if he disappears on me? Well, then you have a guy who is willing to put in literally zero effort for you. You're not really losing anything. So it's coming from the place of confidence and abundance instead of scarcity and insecurity. So she may not feel that way, but if you do the things that a confident woman would do, hey, Brad, I'm really flattered. I appreciate your enthusiasm. I have this funny thing about not meeting total strangers from the internet after one email. So tell you what, give me a call. I'm around tonight after 8:30. Let's connect. Can't wait to hear your voice. XO Jamie. That'll work.
Yeah, and if he's a good guy, he's going to, and he's genuinely interested, he's going to like show up.
Yeah. Again, you just have to show him how. His interests are different than yours. Men want speed. Women in general want comfort before they go out on a date. And so if his goal is different than yours, it doesn't mean he's bad because he wants to meet you right away, not email. And his goal, he knows he's not a rapist. He just wants to meet as quickly as possible, see if there's chemistry, see if he can get some action. Doesn't make him a bad guy, but it's your job to do a better job of screening so he doesn't get his way and you get your way, which is to feel good that the guy you're on a first date with is a decent guy and that you're going to have a good 3 hours on a Saturday night instead of, you know, meeting for 45 minutes for coffee on a Tuesday, which isn't really a good date. That's the date you do when nobody wants to spend time, nobody wants to spend money. You're assuming the worst. I try to get women to assume the best. Imagine your perfect date. Is it 45 minutes on a Tuesday afternoon? No, it's not. So I work backwards from what do you want to happen? Let's make that happen. Instead of, well, you know, guys these days with Tinder and texting, you know, you have no choice but to do this. Actually, you're 50% of the equation. You have plenty of choice.
If there's maybe this is a gender thing. Maybe it's not. You tell me based on your experience with dating. Are you saying the woman sets the pace? Or is it just whoever is like valuing themselves is like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to do this.
I think that's, as I already established, you can, I think it's important to acknowledge gender stereotypes. It doesn't mean we have to adhere to them, but it does mean that there's a certain set of societal expectations around it. If you're the guy who's like, yeah, I don't believe in paying on first dates, good luck with that stance, right? You could play that card. I don't think that's fair. Women make as much as men. I don't do that well. And I want to see if she's willing to put some skin in the game. And you could make your logical case, but most women like a basic sense of courtliness and chivalrousness. And if you don't reach for the check, you're probably not going to get a second date. So it's not my job to sort of litigate what's right or wrong. I'm just going to observe. Here's kind of how it is, right? There's the broad, largely unwritten rules. That's one of them. Yeah. So one of the broad unwritten rules is that men pursue and women say yes, right? Doesn't mean it can't work the other way. You're allowed to ask a man out as a woman. But the truth is, with most men, you don't have to ask them out, because if they're interested in you, they'll do it themselves. And if they want to see you again, they'll follow up to see you again, right? My book, Why He Disappeared, I didn't even, if you've ever written a book, you don't even know what people are going to like until you put it out there. Like, the most popular piece of advice in my book, Why He Disappeared, which is my best-selling book, is don't do anything, right? Literally just sit there and do nothing and see how he follows up with you. Now that relegates women to being more passive, but there's power in being passive. I'm just going to observe how bad this guy wants to see me, call me, follow up with me, commit to me. I don't have to do anything to facilitate it.
Yeah.
Because men in general pursue what they want. You don't need a woman reminding you, hey, remember me? We went out last week. Like if you liked her, you call her the next day. When can I see you again? That was awesome. So the idea that women have to facilitate these things, I don't think is true on a broad gender stereotypical way. If a guy likes a woman, he's going to call her. If he liked her enough on the first date, he's going to kiss her. If he liked her enough, he's going to follow up for a second date. And if he went out with you and you thought you had a great time and he didn't call you for a week, what does that say?
He's not interested.
Or he's not interested enough to amplify his efforts, claim you as a girlfriend. You might just be the once a week girl until he finds someone better. Right? His actions indicate that. You don't have to wonder what he's thinking. His actions are telling you what he's thinking.
You're making it really simple here.
It is
really
simple.
Complicated, right?
No, but I'm saying that
and it's about me and what did I do wrong? And
sometimes there's no there. There's a lot of overthinking going on in dating when all you have to do is observe. Just observe his behavior, observe his follow-up. There are guys out there who are on the more feminine beta end of the spectrum who don't have confidence. They need a woman to reach out to them. And, but then you're the woman who has to prop things up. You have to take on the more traditionally masculine role of calling and planning. And a lot of women they can do that. They do that in their work life, but they don't want to have to remind the guy, hey, it's Friday. Are we going out? They want the guy to say, I found a cool place for us to go, pick you up at 9, dress sexy. Right? They want the guy to take control. And a lot of guys these days don't do that. So we've got really gender blurry. We still have gender roles, but women are more masculine than before. Men are more feminine than before. And each of us is looking at the other person wondering, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah, and who's leading here?
Yes. And so I don't really advocate for anything except finding someone who is of complementary energy to you. If you're a woman who's like, I already looked at LA Weekly. I found this cool food festival. We're going to have to leave at 9 a.m. If you're the woman who plans shit, great. Just find an easygoing guy who's awesome, fun. But
don't expect maybe him to keep
exactly
because you're the one that's
you and that's your role. And if you found a guy who was more of a leader, you might butt heads more.
Yeah.
No. I found something for us to do. Now we've got some friction. So we could almost reduce it to easygoing, difficult people.
Yeah.
Right. Or type A, type B people, big broad categories.
Yeah.
So who do you want to be in the relationship? Everybody says they want the 50-50 relationship. Rarely do relationships work that way. Right. Most people's personality isn't really split down the middle.
And it sounds like a lot of women might say they want 50-50, but deep down inside, they're like, actually, I would like him to lead a little bit here.
They want him to lead. And then we get into the conundrum of you want him to be the guy driving the car, but you also want to drive the car. So we have two people sitting in the driver's seat of the car and nobody navigating.
Yeah.
And that's a sort of a central metaphor of why he disappeared is smart, strong, successful women want a man who's more man than they are. There's not many of them. right? And when they get those guys, they don't lapse into their feminine, right? It's largely a competition, and there's just a lot of negotiation because you've got two bright, opinionated people, and he's not willing to take a back seat and defer. She's not willing to take a back seat and defer. And that's where a lot of friction in relationship comes from two people dating. They're clones. And really, we need to be dating our complements.
Yeah.
Not our opposites, but our complements.
Great. Someone who will compliment me in the dance that we're doing here together.
Yes. And the way we know it's working is that it feels good and that it's easy. We don't need to take a personality test to figure out if you're compatible. Is your relationship easy?
Yeah.
Is it largely frictionless? Do you naturally lapse into your roles? Is there a lot of fighting and breaking up and making up? And right? That's wrong. And trying to preserve that relationship is largely a waste of time. People spend decades trying to fit a square peg in the round hole because of love. And all I care about is this working or is it not? Right? How does it feel? And everybody knows they have friendships that work, they have jobs that work, and they have friendships and jobs that don't.
Yeah.
Right.
I think of chemistry. Like, is the chemistry happening?
I wouldn't disagree with you. I would put them parallel to each other. There's chemistry and there's compatibility. Okay. Right. Chemistry is the thing that usually gets you into a relationship. Right. It's the thing that, oh my God, he likes such cool music and I'm so attracted to him. And he's also Catholic and we both like skiing and right. There's a certain chemistry in, oh my God, I'm familiar with that. I'm really attracted to that. That will not keep you married for 40 years. Yeah. That will get you into bed with someone. Right? But it won't keep you there. Compatibility is all the other stuff that doesn't show up on Tinder and doesn't show up on a first date. Kindness, consistency, flexibility, communication, desire for commitment. Right? Compatibility is built on that. I could show you two people who are identical twins, perfect for each other, madly in love with each other, who can't get along. Yeah. So compatibility is really built on these other things that you could figure out most of it within a month of dating. You don't have to waste a long period of time dating someone, sure. But you can't tell from a photo. You can't tell from a profile. You can't tell from a first date. Well, it's another advantage of your 222 and also just slowing down in general, right? Yes, I believe that no one should be, and I've broken this a million times. It's like, do as I say, not as I did. I feel like most people should wait 4 to 8 weeks before they become boyfriend, girlfriend, and sleep together, right? Don't do the reverse. Don't sleep with a stranger and then spend all your time worrying whether he will become your boyfriend, right? Wait a month, see how he continues to show up. Because anyone can give a good performance for a day, right? Just because you're a good dater doesn't mean you're a good person, much less a good partner. It's a show. Yeah. So see how someone reveals themselves in between dates, not just on dates. It's not how much I like him, right? It's what kind of effort is he making to show me that he's a man of his word or commitment, that he wants the same things out of life. Women say to me, how do you know if a guy wants to get married? Well, he talks about marriage. Like it's like this big mystery. Like guys who want to get married talk about it the same way we talk about fantasy football. You don't have to like prod someone to talk. If you meet me for a week, you'd have known when I was 31, I wanted to be like my dad. I want to be a suburban father and little league coach, and I always wanted that. That's not a mystery, right? No one would date me for 2 years and say, I wonder what Evan wants. I feel like I'm wasting my time with him. People who want things talk about them, and people who don't want things don't talk about them. Great. I love how you keep making it back to the basics here, back to kind of keep it simple. Right. Seems very straightforward to me. I am as shocked as anybody, Jayson, that I am in the position to say these things. But I'm not a faith-based guy. I'm an empiricist. What is he doing? What are you doing? Is it working? Are you happy? If you're not happy, why are you in the relationship? And women stay in relationships for years that aren't making them happy out of insecurity, scarcity, fear they can't do better, the concept of being in love. But on a day-to-day basis, they're anxious, sad, don't feel understood, and they stay. Yep. And so all the time. Yep. Yeah. And so, where everybody else, not everybody else, but a lot of people in our our business does some form of relationship counseling for them, I tell them to dump their boyfriends to solve their problem. Now you will not feel anxious with your boyfriend because you don't have a boyfriend anymore. Now you could find a guy who doesn't make you feel anxious instead of trying to change the whole nature of your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If your boyfriend of a year and a half, you feel uneasy around him because he doesn't really hear you and he doesn't really understand you and he doesn't really share his feelings and he doesn't really want to hear yours. Why double down on this guy? Right? You get a ring. Okay, now you have a ring. Now you're married to the guy that
now
doesn't
you're
listen
in.
to you.
Yeah, exactly.
Congratulations.
Uh-huh.
So Linda Sivertson has something called the boyfriend log. You could download it on iTunes for like $1.99. And it's a little app where you track your moods. If you track your moods for a month and you realize, oh shit, I'm unhappy 75% of the time, maybe it's time to find a new boyfriend.
Uh-huh.
Right? It really is sort of simple in checking in with yourself. This doesn't have to be a big cerebral exercise. The only cerebral exercise is the guy who's the best fit for you is not going to be the guy who knocks your socks off. And that's the hard part, is realizing that's not settling, right?
Yeah.
No more than it's settling to buy a house or choose a job. It's compromising. You compromise your way into happiness. You settle your way into misery. So when we were talking about chemistry and compatibility, Jayson, I believe that chemistry, if you have a 7 chemistry, you're doing fine, and a 10 compatibility. Now, if you have a 10 chemistry, which is most people when they start a relationship, and your compatibility is actually a 4, it's not a very good relationship.
Mm-hmm. Not going to be a good long-term one.
Exactly. Which again is sort of obvious. These are made up numbers.
Yeah.
But I'm a big proponent of the 7 chemistry, 10 compatibility, where there's a lot of people who are like, well, why can't I have both? All right, show me someone who's got both.
Mm-hmm.
Show me the happiest marriages. Are they the people who are all over each other, having sex 6 times a week after 10 years of marriage? I don't know those people.
Yeah.
I just want to be part of, and I am part of a couple that just really likes each other, right? And there's plenty of social science that talks about how best friends really are the secret to happy marriage, right? Someone who you have to make a million decisions with. I don't know anything about you, or you it sounds like you're married because you said you haven't been dating in a while.
Kids. Yeah.
And your dad too?
Yeah.
Yeah. The cornerstone of your marriage, without knowing you, it has to be some form of predictability and stability. If your wife woke up every day wondering, is he going to wake up next to me or is he going to be drunk at a bar in Reno?
Yeah. Not so much.
Right? So stability and predictability are anchors. You need to know what your partner is going to do, but it's not as exciting.
Yeah, hard pill to swallow in our culture of instant gratification, right?
Yes, I'd love to hear your thoughts about it. I mean, it sounds like we're on the same page here, but I'd love to hear your take as a married father.
On what part?
What we're just talking about. What successful marriage actually looks like.
Yeah, it's you're right. There's absolutely a tremendous amount of predictability, safety, security, best friends, and ongoing work to navigate like you said, hundreds of challenges that come up, especially with kids and all the decisions. I want a partner and have a partner, fortunately, who's my team. We're a team together and we're a rock and we do this together, and it requires a tremendous amount of communication. Yeah.
And you're paddling in the same direction, and you can agree 95% of the time, and the 5% where you disagree doesn't become a fight. It becomes okay, this is a problem for us to solve. You think this, I think this. What are we going to do? And I couldn't feel more strongly about the idea that it's the relationship is bigger than you. It's never about ego. If your wife is unhappy, you're not going to be happy. So your job is to make her happy, and a good man knows that, right? If your wife's unhappy, it's no fun in your house.
That's right. Let me ask you a bigger question here that as we're talking, I'm thinking about. I'm curious if you hear this, sort of this stereotype, there's no good men out there. Or another way to say that is the men are, Warren Farrell writes about how men are developmentally a little behind women in the relational department, which I think is true in my experience. So when women are like on the path of like growing and developing themselves, and they're going to see Evan, and they have a coach, they have a therapist, they're journaling all the time, they're really working, they go to women's workshops, and the guy is doing absolutely nothing to like work on himself in the personal growth space of relationships. What do you see? Is that, do you hear that complaint that, yeah, there's just not enough of those kind of guys. I'm kind of hopeless. And what do you say to that sort of person who might come to that conclusion?
I have an answer I kind of like. I'm a personal growth guy. It'd be hard to be in this business if you didn't read those books and go to those workshops. And I'm just generally an optimizer. Can this be done better? I ask every day in business, could I be a better husband? Could I be a better father? Could I be a better businessman? And it's an ethos. My wife has never done anything. Nothing. When I first met her, I was like, you got to try this. You got to read this. And she said, and this is how she won. You know, she won. She drops the mic with this one. She said, I'm happier than you are. I don't need to go to personal growth help. Like, I like me. I like the way I am. And you know what? She's right. So it doesn't mean she couldn't stand to grow and improve. But it's very, very narrow-minded and dogmatic of me to think that she has to be on, in this world, the same spiritual growth path that I am, right? My job as a husband is to say, I either accept you as you are today, right? Today, or I don't. So for any woman who says, I have a boyfriend and I need him to be this and this and this and this, and he's not, well, okay, next, find a different boyfriend.
Yeah.
Right? If what he's bringing you isn't satisfying, that's fine. Right? And the more layers, the more things that you say he needs to have to be your boyfriend, the smaller your pool of men, right? I just think people are choosing from the wrong categories, right? I want to know character, communication, kindness, commitment, selflessness, patience, understanding, ability to help out with housework and child rearing. I want to see that. And 5 for 10 is a bonus. 6 figures is a bonus. Master's degree is a bonus. Likes the same hobbies, has the same belief in religion and politics, bonus, right? Is this fundamentally a good person that you trust you can get along with? Yeah, you need to laugh. Yeah, you need attraction. That's a given.
Yeah.
Right? That has to be there. That's almost not even worthy of mention. You don't have to sacrifice that. But fundamentally, you're building the foundation of your life on someone else's back. That better be a solid person, right? And that is not about whether he's read The Power of Now. There are plenty of great people, men, who've never done any of this. So you either choose to meet them where they're at and say, he's a man. He's a guy who you know, drinks scotch with his friends and watches football on Sundays and is never going to set foot into one of those seminars. And I love him anyway because he's a good man and he's loyal and he treats me well and he provides and he's just not me. And that's the fallacy. That's the narcissism of, I need to date the opposite sex version of myself. So is it true that men are deficient relationship wise? Absolutely. That's how I got into this career. Men need help. They don't ask for it. Women ask for it. God bless them.
Yeah.
But since neither you nor I could go out and wave a magic wand and change men, I would say instead of giving up on every man who's not you, I would accept men as they are based on how they treat you, not based on whether they believe in the exact same things that you do.
Not their resume so much. And
well, again, just it's what you were saying. I've done some work. I need a man who's done some work. Well, not every man needs to have done some work. My wife has done no work, and I accept her. Would she be better if she did? Yeah,
sure.
But
and when you guys meet challenges, because you do, I'm sure, in life, you guys have your own way, I'm assuming, to work that out. You don't.
As we have the foundation, like you said, we need the same things out of life, right? Our values are aligned. What we want, the way we choose to live our life, how we choose to spend our money, how we choose to spend our free time, how we choose to raise our kids. We're actually on the same team. There's really not much friction, right? So people talk about relationships being work. I don't like the word, and I think language matters. I think relationships take effort. You can't just mail it in, but it's never work. It's,
Yeah,
it's, it's
I'm a little different there. I'm like, no, it's work.
okay.
But it's
I'm not
personal
going to just,
preference, right?
I'm certainly not going to correct the host. My belief for anybody who's listening is that the less your relationship feels like work, just like your job, the less it feels like work, the
Yeah.
better it's going to be, right?
Yeah.
The more it could be like, oh, this is just what I need to do. I need to listen to my wife complain about her day at the end of the day, whether I'm interested in what she's saying or not. That's part of the job. It's not work. It's the cost of doing business.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it's like, I don't have a problem with the word work because I don't mind work.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say largely people have a big problem with work because they're usually doing work that's not fulfilling. And so they have an association. My shitty job equals work and therefore work is bad.
Sure.
So I don't want work, you know. I'm not
That's
saying you're
fair.
thinking that, but yeah, regardless, the point is the same. Effort, work, there's going to be some of that involved, and listener gets to choose what sort of semantics works for you, obviously.
Yeah.
But I like the frame that you're bringing.
I just like relationships that are easy. I like getting along with people. If it takes too much work to get along with anybody, I'm not going to have them in my life.
Yeah.
Life is too short. I'm too old to spend a lot of time trying to, get along with my wife or be friends with people. Like if I can't get along with my own wife, she shouldn't be my wife. If I can't get along with my friends, they shouldn't be my friends.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, again, simple rule of thumbs here that you're bringing. I love I guess it's simplicity and straightforwardness, right? That you're bringing to especially dating. Like, guys, it doesn't need to be this big mind game that you mental spin
It's
out.
here.
Right?
It's here. How do you feel in this person's presence? How do you feel when this person's not around? Because again, if you see him once a month and you feel great, but you don't see him for 29 days otherwise, that doesn't justify the relationship because you're not happy. Your relationship needs to buoy you and fill you up. I come out of a bad day at work and I got my wife and kids and I'm a superhero once again.
Yeah.
It's
How
wonderful.
old are your kids, by the way?
4 and 6.
Nice.
So
Cool.
I love my family. I love my life. And I am evangelical about making the kind of choices that are aligned with that kind of thing. So it doesn't matter if there's, the world is overflowing with high character, high earning, dashing, charismatic man. There's no evidence that inherently women are on the whole better than all men. Right?
Yeah.
Right. It's too disparaging to say one gender is so much more superior. Women are superior in some ways and men are superior in some ways. Right. So whoever's in a relationship is making a trade-off and giving up something to get something. And the idea that this is impossible, the all good men are taken, I guess, but I mean, here in America, 50 million men are married, 50 million women are married, right? Oh, guys are just looking for sex, Well, what about the 50 million of them that committed to marriage? I mean, I guess if they did it for sex, it'd be weird, but you understand? It's just, these are stories that we tell to justify the feelings that we have.
Yeah.
And so it's not that it's wrong to have a feeling. Wow, it's really tough out there. It's hard to find a good guy. And I've been on a lot of dates and I've swiped right on a lot of people and I've texted a bunch of guys and it's disappointing and it's dispiriting. That's all valid. But it's when we take that leap to literally the only good people in the world left are women. And then there's this whole subset of people with penises and they're awful. It just doesn't wash.
Yeah. When you put it that way, it's definitely.
But that is the slippery slope of this argument. Yeah. So I don't care if you reject 90% of men. How about you're open to 10%? That's your pool. You're in the top 10% of women. Look for the top 10% of men.
Great. Totally. All right. Last question. This is definitely not my area of expertise, dating, and I'm loving what you're bringing. What do you say to people who say the dating advice is just be yourself?
And it's the world's worst. I think it's the world's worst advice.
Okay. Unpack that. Help us out.
It's not, how should I say this? That's an overstatement. It's not the world's worst advice. It's half of the advice one needs. So in any situation, we could put two pieces together you've ever heard the idea that the sign of a higher intelligence is the ability to hold two contradictory ideas in your head at the same time?
Yeah.
This is two contradictory ideas in the head at the same time. All right. Number one, be yourself. It's true. If you're going on a date, acting, right? I'm going to pretend to be a suave guy. I'm going to pretend to be, acting's not going to get you anywhere. And that's where be yourself is good. Part of the problem is that people aren't very good at being themselves. People are very uncomfortable in their own skin. They get nervous. They're inexperienced. They think someone's really cute or smart. They start worrying about him being like the ex-husband. Is this guy going to lie to me? Is this guy going to cheat on me? And suddenly, you're no longer being yourself. You're in your head. You know when you're being yourself? When you're sitting next to a stranger on an airplane and there's nothing at stake. That's the you that you should be on a date. So be yourself is good enough advice to a point. Now here's the contradiction. What if being yourself isn't working? What if being yourself has gotten you here? Right? Then the onus is on you to say, well, what am I doing that's not working? Is it my online dating profile? Is it my style and appearance? Is it that I'm too egocentric and talk about myself all the time on a date? Is it that I am too shy and have no personality on a date? Is it that I have weird issues around sex so men don't know how to act with me? I don't know what the answer is, but this is the way I am, and it's static is not true, right? We're growth oriented. You and I, we're growth oriented. So you can say in one sentence, be yourself, and you could say in another sentence, whatever you're doing isn't working, work on that, and they're both true.
Yeah.
So that's why that's the limits to being yourself.
Yeah. I mean, when I was, dating a lot in my 20s and I was being myself, it only got me so far, which was a lot of failures.
So what'd you do different?
Well, I finally realized that I was the one common denominator that was kind of blocking the intimacy because I had a lot of issues around feeling guarded and closed off and scared. And so I went and fucking studied myself and went to therapy and started dealing with myself. So I'm a good example of that, holding the contradiction, right? Be yourself, and you got to realize when it's not quite working.
And take responsibility for how other people are experiencing you.
Yeah.
I mean, I could say, if people are listening to your podcast and they're listening to me, I come across as like a bull in a china shop compared to you. You're really quiet and centered and a good listener. And, you've come from Utah. I come from New York. That's someone who doesn't like New York kind of people is not going to like me. And that's okay. It doesn't mean I need to change. I just need to find someone who appreciates me. And different people are going to appreciate me and then appreciate you. You're someone else's energy.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make anybody wrong for having preferences.
Right.
I think it's another thing. We have to sort of stop beating ourselves up that not every person we meet wants to spend the next 40 years with us.
Yeah.
It's not an insult. It's very practical, actually, to say you're a good person, but you're not mine. Next. And doing that quickly instead of saying, I'm going to date this person for a year, even though I have significant doubts that this is ever going to work out. So I'm sort of slow to hire, quick to fire. I'd much rather my clients have 2-month relationships. 3 2-month relationships in a year is better than 1 6-month relationship that was a dead end from the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Awesome advice, Evan. Thanks for bringing it. Where do people find out about you and what you're up to? I know you have a ton of awesome resources on your website.
My name is Evan Marc Katz. My website is Evan Marc Katz, EvanMarckKatz.com. Last year we had 10 million people come to read the blog. So I post 3 times a week on the blog. I've got a podcast called the Love You Podcast that comes up every Wednesday. We release a new one. And I have a newsletter that goes out twice a week. So, I can't vouch for the quality of the content, but the volume of content is enormous. And if you come to my website right now, give me your name and email address, and I will give you a free diagnosis. I'm going to identify your number 1 relationship issue and how to solve it in just a 5-minute video. So it's a pretty neat survey. You tell me what's going on in your life. I'll let you know how to fix that main issue that's bugging you right now. And that's for free when you come to evanmarckatz.com.
Outstanding. Cool. And we'll put that in the show notes. So you just have to click the link and go there. Awesome. Well, thanks, Evan, for all your time and energy and helping the people and just your enthusiasm and fire for this work.
Thanks for having me. It's really, really generous, and you're very good at your job.
Cool.